We're going to do a quick video about the ease of setup with the Press Monitor 3. So I've got this one hooked up to a Dillon 550 press, but we're just going to power it on and go through the setup. So press any button to power it on. When it first comes on, it's going to go through its product name and serial and also your overall press totals and your current configuration. So if you want to skip by those screens faster, if you just tap the red ignore button, you don't have to wait on each one. So now let's go ahead and show the test sensor screen. It's going to start beeping when I do this because my press right now is activating one of the sensors. What's really great about this new test sensor screen is that you can test and make sure that you have everything set up properly. For example, the ORN is for the orange wire and it's for the press handle down. If I pull the handle down, you'll see that it goes to active, starts beeping. The blue wire is for handle up, same deal. And then also the this one I'm using the new feature where you can have 4 sensors. So green is rotate and then green-white is prime. Now I'm going to have to show you the rotate, and then here's the prime. So what's great about this is that you can finally monitor up, down, rotate, and prime on a Dillon 550. So on other presses, if you don't, like a 650, if you didn't need to do the rotate, you can do a simpler wiring method where you just use the orange, blue, and green pair. Or if you want to use the 4th sensor as an error sensor, which just immediately generates an error, you can also do that. So let's go ahead and exit test sensors. And anytime you're at the end of something, it'll ask you, do you wish to exit it, yes or no? And if I just hit ignore again, I'll exit. But if I change my mind and want to go back in, I can just hit minus to change it to no and then hit ignore to go back in. So I'm going to go ahead and exit, and we're going to go into setup so I can sort of give you a brief rundown of what the options are. The first one is change press settings. And then if I want to go into that, I just say yes and go into it. And now the first thing it asks you is for your press type, and it has a whole bunch of built-in press types for common presses that you might need to use. And it also has an other category if you just want to choose one of those. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the Dillon 550, which is what I have connected to it. And then the next thing is this new question called press configuration. The old model actually had 3 or 4 different questions that had to ask you to figure out what the configuration of your press was. And the great thing about this new version is that we're just using a single letter code. So you can go to the manual, figure out which one you want, and say, okay, letter K, that's what I'm looking for, and then it's easy to come in here and set. And in this case, it's manual index with priming. So if I hit ignore, it's going to take me back to that same question again. Do I wish to change the press settings? In this case, I'm going to say no. Let's move on. So the next question has to do with reminders. So I'm going to go ahead and go in there. The first one has to do with press maintenance. If you want it to let you know after, say, 5,000 rounds that it's a nice time to lubricate the press, do any kind of maintenance or cleanup on it, this will remind you. It'll keep track of how many rounds you load, and when you get low, it'll start issuing, when your 5,000 rounds is up, it'll start issuing a reminder letting you know it's time to do that maintenance. The brake reminder, if you have it set, will give you a quick little beep on the screen every 60 minutes saying, hey, it'd be nice for you to take a break. Unless you have happened to walk away for the press for more than, I think it's 10 minutes. In that case, it will assume you took a break and it won't remind you for another 60 minutes. So if you want to make this longer, you can. If you want to disable it so it doesn't ever remind you to take a break, you can do that too. So the RPHC Too Fast reminder says, if I'm going faster than this number, remind me. The reason for this is that you don't want to get into the habit of going too fast. You want to develop a nice smooth cadence, and that's what produces consistent ammunition. So you can set this lower if you want. If you don't set it lower, you can come in here and set it higher. You can also disable it if you really want to disable it. But this is a reminder that if you just start goofing around and you're going too fast, and you know you shouldn't be going that fast, it'll give you a heads up that, hey, it's time to slow down and watch what you're doing a little better. So the powder low reminder goes with the powder tracking feature. If you weigh a powder container, dump the powder in the measure, weigh it again. It'll calculate how much powder you added and then deduct from it for every round you load. And when it gets below this threshold, it'll give you a reminder for that. And finally, this interval reminder is a really nice reminder. If you don't want that Dillon beeping primer thing to start buzzing at you, you can actually use the interval reminder, and I'll show you how to do it. Set this for about 100 rounds, and then there's another feature called the lead off. Set that to 5. So what this will do is that at 100 minus 5, which is 95 rounds, it'll give you a little quick beep and a reminder. And then you can load your primer tube before you run out of primers, or before it gets low enough for that beeping to start occurring on the primer buzzer. You can set this for any, you can use this for any kind of purpose, not just primer reloading, but if you just want an interval reminder every so often, that's what you can use for. It's really handy. The statistics is the next question in setup. View or reset statistics. I'm going to go in there. And here's your overall press totals. And I've just started playing with this unit today. So I've got 54 test rounds I've loaded. It's taken me 0.2 hours, probably roughly 20 minutes. And my average speed is pretty terrible, 187 rounds per hour. So if I want to reset those totals, I could do that. If next thing it shows me is the current configuration, but it's really showing me this because it wants to show me the maintenance. Right now I've loaded 54 rounds, so and I changed that maintenance reminder to 5,000, so it's saying I've got 4,946 rounds to go before maintenance is due. So if I go past that, it's going to say, do I want to reset that? If you want to reset that just because you did maintenance early, you can do that. So that's the final question, the final area you can go into. So then you exit setup and you're right back to monitoring mode. So what's really great about this is that you don't need to go to the manual for 99% of the things you might want to do. Everything is in an easy to use English menu and you can just go in and change it. Let's go ahead and look at specify session real quick. Some of this is covered in a different video, so I'm just going to cover what we didn't cover in the other video. Reset current session lets you start over your current session. So let's say you've loaded 100 rounds of one cartridge and now you're going to load 100 rounds of another and you want to start fresh on your numbers. Just come in here and say yes, and boom, it's done. Now the specify rounds to load activates the feature where it will tell you how many rounds you have left. If I say I'm going to load 300 rounds in this session, and the longer you hold this button the faster it goes. There we go. Set it for 300 rounds and hit ignore, and I'm not going to do the charge weight. This powder measure still has some grains in it from a previous test I was doing. I'm going to exit, and now the middle statistics will say I've got 300 rounds to load, and if I were actually loading some, it would tell me how long in minutes until I was done. So that's how you use the menus. They're real simple. If you have any questions, please use the support link in the upper right corner of our website. It's pressmonitordevice.com. Thanks.